We're now at the section on the agenda for public participation, not related to any specific topic, but any topic. Are there any members of the audience who would like to say or ask anything tonight? Yes, Trish.
Thank you. Do you mind if I step up front?
That, I would appreciate if you would.
Thank you.
How is the sound system working, by the way? Can everyone hear?
Everyone's coming across pretty good. Occasionally, the superintendent's voice sinks much lower than everybody else.
I see.
Can't have a microphone by himself.
Y'all don't want to put a microphone in my hand, I promise you. That's okay. Thank you. I really appreciate the chance to publicly participate, and I appreciate the microphones very much. I come to you tonight to talk to you about the budget. We're a couple of months away from having the budget on the table, but I know y'all been discussing it since February, January, last year, year before. You've been looking down the road. I have been told by Sally Howell in previous years that the two most important jobs of the board is to appoint the superintendent and to approve the budget. We have had, and maybe by design, I've heard that term before, for the last 2 years we've had $20 million more in expenditures than we've had in revenue. Now a lot of that has to do with debt service, I understand, and some of that comes out of the debt service fund and so forth and so on. And I have a question. Are we using $12 million out of the special revenue fund and $3 or $4 million out of the debt service fund to pay that $16 million debt service payment? It's hard to tell from the financial statements, but that's kind of what it looks like. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, we'll be happy to present the financial statements in total as part of the meeting.
That's okay.
Be glad to do that.
I was just curious.
Absolutely glad to do that.
Okay. And I know that each of the past 2 years has brought surprises in terms of property tax collections being down, probation, and our city council continuing to cut our spending, which I also noticed that we've only received $1 million from the city council up to this point for this fiscal year. So I'm guessing that other $1 million will come in the next few months. And so over those 2 years, as those surprises have come, it appears that we made the decision not to cut spending as much as we chose to spend down our reserve. Fortunately, we did have a very healthy reserve, what we used to call the reserve back in 04 and 05. And I looked at a budget amendment that was online, I guess it was from last month, but it showed that we would have $11 million in that special revenue fund at the end of this fiscal year, down from $30 million at the start of this year and near $50 million the year before. I get nervous about stuff like that, y'all. It's not my money, but I get nervous about stuff like that. And then in today's Birmingham News, I had no intention to speak tonight, but in today's Birmingham News, I've been out of town for a few days, I noticed where, Birmingham Southern is recognized their $10 million budget deficit, and bam, they hit it, and they hit it hard. They took out 10, as much as they could, 51 positions, and their top administrators took a 10% pay cut. And never one to fear asking the question, because all I can be told is no. I would like to respectfully request that Cooper City Schools administrators look at that as an option as we look at cutting $20 million out of our budget. Taking a 10% pay cut, everybody over $90,000, take a 10% pay cut. That might put more money into the hands of our teachers where they could have classroom supplies. I know all those decisions have yet to be worked out, how much money there will be left over for supplies, but I'd much rather model Birmingham Southern than model the city of Birmingham, who just borrowed $15 million to cover their budget deficit. We're obviously still spending a lot of money. I don't know how carefully y'all look at those check registers that you get every month. They're interesting to me. And I looked at it for May this afternoon, and I'm finding stuff on there that I still don't understand why we're spending money on. One thing that I'm really concerned about is this. I've heard across the country a lot of systems are looking at their cell phone use. And I'm seeing we're paying $15,000 a month to Nextel for telecommunications, and we're paying $1,500 a month to AT&T for telecommunications. I know through other Freedom of Information Act requests that some of that money is being spent for iPhones, for central office people. And I'm thinking, for real? iPhones, I mean, forgive my casual language, but it's not making sense when teachers are losing jobs. And I'm thinking, speaking of cell phones, sorry, that's my son. He must have known I was speaking and saying, please stop, Mom. But anyway, I'm looking at, we've got conference registrations. I'm seeing we had $25,000 in legal fees. $10,400 of it was for some out-of-state arbitrator. And I'm thinking, what, I know that Mr. Craig, that's his forte, is finance. But I'm still looking at this thinking, are y'all, as a board, really reviewing what we're expending without micromanaging? But asking the questions. I mean, y'all's names are on the budget too. You guys are the ones who actually have your name on the budget. I'll try to cut this short. My mind goes in a lot of directions. Things like the audit. I saw Birmingham City Schools paid $4,300 for their audit. We're still paying $43,000. I'm seeing that we pay $9,200 to school superintendents of Alabama. So as for association fees, so I picked up the phone and called school superintendents of Alabama, and I said, can you tell me what that $9,200 is for? The kind woman on the phone could not tell me. Finally, she said, lobbying. And I have her name written down, and she was as nice as she could be. And I'm thinking, for real? Are we paying $9,200 in association fees to the school superintendents of Alabama so they can lobby the legislature? It's stuff like this. My grandmother used to say, penny wise, pound foolish. I know people are cutting copy paper, they're cutting copy expense. I hear the personal refrigerators are being looked at in teachers' classrooms and things like that. But there's some big ticket items that I think are just, we're assuming are the cost of doing business that maybe we need to look at more carefully. And I thought, if I don't come to you now, there's probably no point in coming to you because the budget will be set. So, my next request, I'll skip the details. For the past 2 years, I have asked our CFSO to release the budget a couple of days early in accordance with the State Department of Education's best practice. They suggest release the budget. I think they said up to a week early, but I've asked for 48 hours would be nice. But the budget is never ready until we walk into the budget hearing, hot off the press. It's hard to go through the budget and form good questions about the budget while you're sitting there. I think y'all saw that. I would really appreciate, I respectfully make that request to y'all again, that perhaps we could put out the draft budget, make it available for view on the website or something, not printed copies because that's so expensive, but something where we could actually see the budget a couple of days before the first budget hearing. I also want to mention that the group that our nonprofit called the Hoover School Community Information Network, we changed our name to the Hoover School Connection because that was just such a mouthful. But we're going to host 2 seminars this year. We're really going to stick our foot out there and say, we're going to try and help people understand the budget on the layman's level. They understand it because they understand the edu-speak. Most lay people have no idea what they're looking at when they're looking at financial statements and budget statements. We're hosting one, they're both going to be at the Hoover Library. One's going to be August 28th, one's going to be September 12th. We'll be give you the details later. Not a lot of detail, but just to help people. I think a lot of people stay away from the budget hearings because they feel uninformed and they don't want to look stupid. And I would end with this. How we handle our budgets and our spending over the next 2 years, 2 to 4 years, may largely determine the long-term fate of this system. Every school system has a tipping point, and I have been concerned over the last few years that we are there. We built, and now we're having to scale back. And how we scale back will be extremely important in determining the long-term fate of this system. And I would ask you to please redouble your efforts when you're looking, as the board, when you're looking at our monthly check registers, when you're looking at our budget as a planning tool, and really try and comprehend what that means. Some of you will be here for a while, and that responsibility is a serious one. So I appreciate all that you do for our school system. I really do. I appreciate how far we've come in the last 4 to 5 years in terms of openness and communication. And I respectfully request that you consider very, very seriously. I've made a great effort over the last year to understand the financials and to really step in as our Board of Education, as the representatives of the citizens, to be our voice at that table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on public participation? Sure.